So the first thing you want to do is connect power to the socket here. So plug that in, and then you can flick the switch ready. And the next thing you'll need is your computer cable, so either DisplayPort or HDMI, whatever's going to go into your monitor. And then you will want to find your graphics card, which is this lot here. And I've taken out one of the little stops, so that's a HDMI. We're going to use DisplayPort here. And then simply click in your DisplayPort cable, and then plug the other end into your monitor. And you'll also need a keyboard and mouse. So again, all the USBs here. The top ones are standard, that's why they're black, so USB 2. The blue are typically USB 3. And you can have 3.1 as well. So for keyboard and mouse, just go ahead and use your standard sockets up here and just plug in your keyboard and your mouse. And then we can go ahead and try booting up the machine. So we've got the computer built, we've got all the power cable, the monitor, the mouse and keyboard plugged in. The next step is to use another computer or use a friend's computer to download Windows, or you can potentially buy a CD from a store if you want to go that way, if you installed a CD into your computer. But the modern way and the easy way is to simply download Windows and put it onto a USB stick. So you'll need a USB thumb drive, and then in Google type in Windows 10 download, and the top link should be this download Windows 10 disk image. In there we want to download this installation media tool. Save that, and then once it's downloaded, open the tool. And then you want to accept the license. And then we don't want to upgrade this computer, we want to create a USB drive for installing on a new computer. I'm going to change this from US to UK because I'm in the UK, and then click Next. This will warn you about which edition you've selected to make sure it's the same as the one that you intend to purchase a license for. So I'm fine, just Windows 10 is okay. USB flash drive I want to create, or we can simply download it to an ISO for later, but I'm happy to just use a USB flash drive right now. So now go ahead and plug in your USB flash drive into your computer, into this computer that we're downloading it on, not your computer you've just built. And then there's the USB drive, which is F drive. Now refresh the list, it's now found the F drive, so that's the one we want to use. And now it will be downloading Windows 10, I'm guessing at the moment. So this progress will take a little while. I've got really fast internet, so it shouldn't take too long, but I'll just fast forward this part of the video. And now it says it's done. So we click this F drive, and you can see here all the setup files. So now we can safely eject that USB. You right click, and so now we can safely remove that USB stick. So if we close that down and remove the USB stick, and then we'll plug it into the computer we want to install it on, and we'll go from there. Now you have your Windows on your memory stick that we made a minute ago. You can go ahead and connect this to one of the USB ports. And now you can turn your computer around and press the on button, which in this case, on my case, is here. And we'll get going with the boot up process. So the first thing you need to do with everything plugged in, you've got your USB with Windows on, your keyboard, your mouse, your power, and your monitor. You want to turn on the computer. And when you turn on the computer, you want to look on the screen, which will only appear briefly. Usually it's the delete button for BIOS and F11 or F12 for a boot menu. Most modern computers, it won't matter. You'll simply turn it on and it'll boot from the USB. And I'm pretty sure this one will. But if not, then you can press Del to get into the BIOS and change the boot order. So we'll have a quick look in the BIOS. So we'll go ahead and turn it on. And you can see there was a very brief screen. I think I just saw the DAL to enter BIOS. And now you can see we've missed pressing DAL, so we've missed the BIOS, but that doesn't matter, it's gone straight into booting Windows. So I guess we'll just install Windows in this case. I think it's safe to say almost all modern computers will boot from the USB straight away. If not, then you simply look for boot menu or BIOS, and then in the BIOS you look for boot order, and you simply move the USB to a higher priority, or simply add USB. But I can't think of any board in the last 5 years that won't boot from USB. So you should be safe to simply insert the USB into the computer and you should get to this screen. So I'm going to leave it set to United Kingdom and click next. And then install now. And then this is activate Windows, so we don't have a key yet, we'll purchase online afterwards. So simply put, I don't have a product key, and we should be able to continue fine. And then depending on which one you plan to buy, you can select the right version here. So I'll get Pro with this machine, so I'll just click next. And then accept the license and click next. And then here's if you've already got something on your hard drive. We haven't, so it's simply install Windows only. And then here we can see our 1 terabyte hard drive. Click new, apply, which will make it the full size, and then simply click OK to the warning. That's just going to create all the partitions needed for Windows. And then it's already selected the primary partition, and it's created these 3 others that it needs for booting up and recovery. So just leave it all as standard and click next. And that's pretty much it. So now we sit and wait for the files to copy, get installed, finished, and then the machine will restart. The only thing you want to be careful of is once Windows is installed and the machine wants to restart, you will want to remove the install USB stick. Otherwise, what might happen on some machines is you'll basically have the computer restart and then you'll get back into the installer and you'll start this whole process again. So you'll end up in like this loop where you seem to think, hang on, I've just installed it, but now it's asking me install, and that's simply because Windows might boot off the USB before the hard drive. And again, modern computers, it's not usually that way. They have the internal hard drive as the first boot device and then USB afterwards. So we'll see, we'll leave it in for this machine, and let's see if it works. And if it does loop, then you'll see what's happening. But if you get that issue when you've installed Windows, that you end up back in the installer, then simply remove the USB stick and restart the machine, and it should boot into the actual installed Windows. And Windows is pretty quick at installing now. This is it's not a super fast machine, but it's a pretty high spec machine we've built. The main advantage of this installer being fast will be that this Windows USB stick is a USB 3 stick, and the PC has got an SSD. So a lot of the Windows installers is basically copying files. Pretty much just copies the files off the USB stick for the most part. So this install should take probably another minute or so. So I'll simply fast forward until it gets to the point where it restarts, and then we'll carry on from there. And there you go, you can see it's now finished. That took about 2 more minutes, and it restarts itself in a few more seconds. So this is the point when you'd remove the USB stick. If you wanted to, I'd let the screen black off and then pull the stick, but again, I'm pretty sure we won't have the issue, and I'm leaving it in for this one. But if we end up back in the Windows installer, then it's simply a case of you need to remove the USB stick. Because now Windows is installed, it doesn't need the USB drive anyway. So you can leave it in or you can take it out, but if you have issues, take it out basically. And there you can see clearly the press DAL to run BIOS, press F11 to enter boot menu. And now this is booting into Windows. And I'm pretty sure this is the actual hard drive. There we go. So getting devices ready. And you can see we've got a. I've noticed this on modern motherboards lately that the Windows boot process seems to overlay the motherboard's launch image in the background when it's loading. So all motherboards are different, but it's like a little Windows quirk. I have noticed this this happens, and I think it's so that motherboards can provide their own custom Windows boot logo, if you will. So the loading circle is the only thing that redraws on the screen, and it leaves everything else as default. So kind of a strange looking thing when you're used to Windows just showing their logo, but I've noticed this on a few boards. And then it just flickered up and said restarting, so this is just Windows finishing a few more install steps, and then I think this time around we should end up in the getting started, which I think will be Cortana because it's the latest Windows. So we're going to have a voice activated Cortana kicking in and wanting to guide us through the finished setup next. So let's see where we get to. But all in all, this has only taken about, I'd say, 6-7 minutes since we started. So Windows has rapidly improved the install speed. And there we go. So now language UK for me. UK again. Don't want to add a second keyboard, so I'll skip that. Connected to a network, I'm going to skip for now. That's where you can set up obviously your internet. So who's going to use this PC? It's going to be Luke. Well, in fact, I'm setting this up for somebody at work, so this will be we'll add another user afterwards and remove mine, but for now Luke's fine. Password, that will do. Confirm password, and add a hint. How about no, I don't want a hint for my password. And then here we go. So this is Cortana Personal Assistant, and I'm pretty sure this would provide sound, but it's trying to come out of the computer, and we don't have any audio plugged in, so we're simply not hearing. But if you've got speakers plugged in, then this would be talking to you right now. So select on blah blah blah. I want no for this. So this is basically collecting personal information. I'd click no to that, and I'd also turn off all these. So you don't need any of these to do anything. I'm very anti-sharing of my information online, so turn them all off. That's what I'd highly recommend. Click accept. You can always turn these back on if you feel like after, but I'd honestly default all of these to just off, and then accept. And now this is the last step, so we basically sit back and wait. And again, this will probably take a minute or two, and then it will just log us straight into the Windows desktop. So that's how easy installing Windows is. There's nothing really more to it. It's certainly easier than it used to be, and it's a lot quicker than it used to be. And then once we're in the desktop, we'll go through, I mean, that's all you need to install Windows. You're good to go from there. But I'll take you through a few things I always do at the start, and again, it's preference. You don't have to do them. But there's a couple of things I do as soon as a new PC is installed. So we'll just wait for this to finish, and then we'll go through that. And that didn't take long, I think about 30 seconds. And there we have it. So now we're in Windows. This is a 4K monitor, 43-inch. And you can see we've got low resolution at the minute. Everything's a bit grainy. You probably can't see it on the camera, but this is only probably 1K resolution. But because Windows has just kicked in, we already saw something pop up about a display driver. So generally, just let Windows sit for a few seconds, and you can see here, searching for display driver. So that's down at the bottom right, this little notification area. And you'll tend to find that just leaving this is enough to get the display driver to kick in. So the screen will probably flicker in a minute and all go high resolution. Until then, you can see this here. This is Cortana, Ask Me Anything. So, I don't know, open calculator. It's not really asking or anything, that's just searching. So this thing is for sort of similar to, I guess, iPhone Siri and the Amazon Echo and things. It's the, you know, the speech assisted search. I simply don't like that, so I just right click anywhere in this dark area down here on the taskbar, whatever you call this. I think it's classed as taskbar. Yep. And then show task view removes this as well. So let's first remove this search, which is up here, Cortana hidden. The store I don't like anyway. That's again, if you click it, it opens Windows Store, but there's no internet on this at the minute, so that's that. But again, I right click on here, and unpin, and that'll remove it. Internet Explorer. Now there's no internet as I mentioned on this at the minute. I haven't connected an Ethernet cable, and I didn't install wireless in this because we all use Ethernet at work. But the first thing I'd do is open up Internet Explorer, type Firefox, download Firefox and install that, and then make that my default browser. Now Edge is certainly a lot better than it used to be, but I still prefer Firefox. So again, your preference, you might want Chrome, but I'd certainly get your Internet Explorer set up first. This is a task view, so if you click this, it just grays out and you can't really see. But what it is, you can have like multiple desktops. So if I have, say, Notepad open, or rather Sticky Notes has decided to open. Let's delete that. Notepad. So I've got a notepad here, say desktop 1. And then if I click this task view and I click new desktop down this bottom right, I can now have 2 desktops. So in this desktop I could open, say, some files up and I could be working on my files. And you can flick between your desktops and have multiple desktops. Again, I don't use this feature, so let's first remove the second desktop. And then I will right click on the taskbar down here again, and I will uncheck this show task view button. That gets rid of that. That cleans that up. Then I'd open up File Explorer, either with Windows key and E, or by clicking here. And then I'd go to View, Options. I'd uncheck these. I don't want to show my recent files or frequent used files. Click Apply, clear the previous. And then I also want to change that the Open File browser goes to this PC by default. So right now it's going to this Quick Access, which shows me downloads, documents, pictures, but I've got them in the side anyway. So I'm getting the exact same view here and here. It's like wasted. So I change it to this PC. And then what that does now, if I close that and open a new one, we now go to the PC, which you can see the hard drive, and you can see the USB stick with the installer. So that's the settings of the File Explorer. And then obviously from there you might want to install Kaspersky antivirus. Windows comes built with Windows Defender, which is here. So if you double click this shield, or maybe right click and open, you've technically got this protection, which is firewall, antivirus, but you might want something stronger than this, so you might want to get Kaspersky as what I use at the moment. Then you set up your emails, and by default I do use this mail that's built into the Windows installer. I think it's quite good, so I keep that. And then if you want to change your theme to dark, right click on the desktop, personalize. I go to theme, or rather colors I think it's in, and I change it to dark, so at least part of this is dark. And then you'll see on my videos I have this also dark, the File Explorer, and there's basically something called UX Theme Patcher, and there's a bunch of themes that you can get that you can install into Windows. And I think the one I'm using right now is After Dark, I think it's called, or Arc, but I'll post in the comments. I'll look up what I use, and I'll also post a link to if you want the actual File Explorer dark as well. Again, it's just easier on the eyes. And then finally you can see this display either has installed, which it has, so now the display drive is installed. We can bump this up to 4K resolution. And there we go, you can keep the changes, and you can see how tiny the screen's gone now. Everything's crystal clear, but it's really small. So you won't be able to see this, well actually you might be able to see it on the camera. But now we want to change the scaling, which is here, which was just above the resolution. And you can change the scale, let's go to 250. You can see everything goes nice and big again. So I tend to run, I think, about 250. And you can see now here, there's the resolution, and then above it was the scaling. And you can change it to whatever you want. And I find 250 works. Again, now everything's scaled up. So that's really the Windows install. That should get you from basically speccing up a computer to fully building and installing Windows and you're ready to go. I guess one other thing is I mentioned that I'd purchased Windows Pro. Now, what you might not realize is you don't even need to pay for a license as such. So Windows allows you to use Windows 10 perfectly free The only difference is when it's free and you go to personalize, you can't typically change themes, and certain things are limited. Now this is probably just not kicked in because we've got a grace period, and we also don't have internet. But once you'd install internet and do anything, this will start locking up things like personalizing the desktop. And you'll also potentially have an activate Windows down here. But in general, you can use Windows completely unactivated with no problem. If you do buy a license, and I recommend you do, then if you press the Windows key to get to here and type in activate, you should see activation pop up. And then here you can see activate Windows now, Windows 10 Pro, change product key. So once you've purchased a product, you click change product key and you'd enter it here and then go next, and you'd activate your copy of Windows. And again, you can actually get to that from right clicking on the desktop and click either display or personalize, it doesn't matter. And then, or can you get to it from here? I thought you could. Maybe not. You can click home, yeah. So click either one, then click the home at the top left. And then go to, I'm guessing, was it in updates and security? And then activation. And then it's there. So it's hidden in the same settings. So that's how you find that. Yeah, so I think that covers everything. So hopefully this was useful. You can now go ahead and build your own computer from scratch. Any questions, any issues, any comments, just leave them in the video.